The Hornets break a million records and then some. It was ridiculous. LaMelo gets a triple-double. Kelly Oubre goes for 39 off the bench. The Hornets score 158 total. Let's try to break it down all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available on all platforms. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, or we're getting closer to the 1,000 subscriber mark, which means we are going to paint our face purple and teal. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get them, and you can follow us on Twitter.
Walker Mail. Is that fun? Wait a minute. Is that funny to you, Nick?
No, I mean, I said the other week I'd only come back on the podcast if the Hornets scored 150 points. So
nice.
I'm making bad bets too.
Perfect timing. So you can find us on Twitter, Walker Mail, Doug Branson, LOH, Locked On Hornets, and you can find Nick, who was laughing at our humiliation, at Nick Carboni, WCNC. I mean, you're going to...
If only I knew somebody that produced television on sports and could find a way to amplify your embarrassment.
Yeah.
And put it on TV.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, aren't we supposed to be teammates? And here you are, that you're just going to humiliate us even more so. You're going to put us on television. See, YouTube is a different animal, and then we're going to be on TV as well. It's going to be crazy humiliating. You're going to finagle it somehow, though. I imagine that you're going to be a guest on this show as soon as that happens. Like, it will be
that'll be my slot. Yeah.
You're going to break into the system, make sure subscribers are getting cut down, and then on that 1,000 mark, right before you're supposed to come on that Tuesday, that's what you're going to do. We'll get to that point when we actually reach that mark. Let's go ahead and talk about the Charlotte Hornets game last night. 158 points. So many records broken. We'll try to get to that. LaMelo Ball, phenomenal in this one. Triple-double for him. We'll try to get to all of this. But, man, just to see 158, to see them score, the quarter breakdown is hilarious. Like, 33 in the first. All right, that's pretty good. 38 in the second. All right, that's even better. Wow.
Getting better.
That's amazing point total. 42 in the third. Goodness gracious, what's gotten into this team? And then they score 45 with Kai Jones hitting a three. All right, at that point, it got ridiculous. I don't even know what I watched last night. Nick, can you try to make it make sense to me?
It was like the definition of, boy, that escalated quickly. Because, at halftime, you're wondering, like, okay, yeah, sure, they have 70 or whatever points, but are they going to be able to shake this depleted Pacers team? Like, they kind of need to win this game after losing the last two, especially after that dud in Toronto, another game without Gordon Hayward. And you come back and you play the Lakers and Clippers nearly back-to-back on the same weekend here at home. So I was hoping they could at least get some separation and close it out. And they did that. Like, LaMelo went on his own mini run, and then the team went on like a 15-2 run. And then it just really exploded. I mean, from my perspective, I'm in the office, working on some other stuff. And every time I look, it's like, oh, they're at 100, though they're at 120. And there's 10 minutes to go in the game. James Bouknight makes it 129. And then, like you said, Kai Jones hitting his first career three-pointer. I mean, just like the human victory cigar, if there ever was one, was right there. And I don't think that's when good old Coach Carlisle made that face, but I'm sure he made a similar one after that Jones bucket.
So I'm glad you have that face up, Doug, because I don't know how many people screenshotted this. I didn't check, but I saw that. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a meme. I mean, this is going to be one that lasts for a while. Look at that face. I mean, it's so sad. Is he doing okay? Has anybody checked in on Rick Carlisle after what just took place last night, allowing 158 points? Your biggest takeaway, Doug, what'd you see last night?
My biggest takeaway is that this was the LaMelo Ball masterpiece that we've been waiting for a few weeks now. We've profiled his struggles with efficiency offensively, and he came through big time tonight, or last night. Big, it's like I'm doing the game recap. Came through big time, and he loves playing the Indiana Pacers. In 4 games this season, I'm going to read these stats to you. He's averaging 28.3 points per game on 56.8% shooting, 57.7% from beyond the arc on 6.5 attempts, 10.5 rebounds, 9.3 assists. He is just a tick away. In 4 games, they've completely swept the Pacers of averaging a triple-double, a huge triple-double, a 28-point triple-double against the Indiana Pacers. He was doing it all, and I love just how crafty he is getting to the rim. He was blowing by those Pacers defenders. Brissett, they just couldn't throw anything at LaMelo Ball to stop him. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah, it really was, and you're right, Doug. I mean, this has been somebody in LaMelo who not only struggled the last, actually didn't crazy struggle the last couple of games, right? It's actually the team that more so did offensively, but we actually did get to see him go 11 of 16 from the field as his final tally, 3 of 4 from the perimeter, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. 10 rebounds, 13 assists, 29 points, and I tried to figure out what my favorite stat was in the box score for this game because there was obviously going to be a ton of them. How about a plus 45 for LaMelo in the plus-minus column? The next one up from that was 27, was Kelly Oubre was plus 27, and LaMelo was plus 45 to lead all of the players in this game.
I think that's the highest. I believe I read on Twitter that that's the highest plus-minus ever, and that it was second only to Kemba Walker and Marvin Williams in that game where they blew out. It was like one of the largest blowouts in NBA history when they beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 1,000.
I mean, it was unreal to watch this one. And then, so I just hope that this is something that can keep them going, because what's crazy is everybody was making a point that this is the first time that they really got going offensively in the last 2. Didn't show up against Atlanta, just couldn't hit shots. Couldn't hit shots against Toronto, despite them having a couple of players out, and they really took advantage of that against Indiana. And here's something else, too. It's one thing to score 158. It's a pretty crazy thing to score 158. But to do it on the second night of a back-to-back on the road as well, to be able to hit on that type of volume, that's what's really impressive too. I haven't gone down the list of all of the teams that have ever put up 158. I think there's like 20 that put up 159, and then there's quite a bit of teams that put up 158. I would like to know how many teams did it the second night of a back-to-back on the road. That makes it all the more impressive. Nick, do you expect this to do anything for the Hornets going forward? And play, like, is this one that you're always going to remember down the road too? Like, yeah, I remember watching that game. It's a crazy one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to stand out, years from now. I think for this season, it doesn't do much for me. Like, it's great that they won. It's great that, hopefully it gets them out of some, slumping, LaMelo and even others. But, the Pacers were a depleted team coming in. I thought they should have won the game, going into the game. It was fun to watch. And, they're just going to be in this. They have to have this dogfight mentality the rest of the way, because it's not going to be easy. I mean, they're sitting in 7th. There's teams chasing them. There's teams ahead of them that are going to try to create more separation. Looking at the next slate or set of games, the only one on there in the next, handful that you think, okay, like that's a win, I think is Detroit. I mean, they come back, they have to face the Lakers and the Clippers at home. And those teams aren't, what they have been in the past, but those are going to be tough games. And then you have more tough games as the East. My favorite stat was I went back and looked at, so the record before 158 for points in regulation for the Hornets was 141, set back in 1993. And I went back to look like, all right, well, who did what in that game? And like LJ had a big game, Muggsy had like 19 assists. But my favorite stat was that they went 1 of 8 from 3.
Yeah.
And it's just such a different game. The Hornets were 24 of 45 from 3 last night. That was my favorite stat. But I think if there's anything you can take from it, I think 2 things. They did it without Gordon Hayward, and that was a struggle for them in the 2 prior games, missing him on offense and the way he settles them and connects them. So they kind of like figured out how they can do that in a way. And then just seeing the ball go in the bucket, because it just really hadn't been going in the last 2 games.
I have a tie I have a 1 and 1A for favorite stats of the game. 1 is going to be the fact that they broke the franchise record for points scored in regulation, and there were 5.5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. Well,
that was amazing.
And it's funny because they like it's the first time that they've scored this. They broke a franchise record that stood for this long. It stood forever because the franchise here since 88, 89 to put up 140, and you say to do that like in 5.5 minutes with that much time left to go. Yeah, I wanted them to get to 160. I was the greediest dude on planet
almost
Earth
did.
last night. I
They
think all of
tried.
us were.
I love that they tried.
They threw an attempt up. They made an attempt. My second favorite stat, or 1A, is the fact that the Hornets scored 158 points. The starters got major starter minutes. This wasn't a situation where the starters played for a little while and then sat for the entire fourth quarter. Mason Plumlee, 7 points.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get to double figures in a game where the Charlotte Hornets score 158 points.
All of them off reverse dunks. Not really, but it feels like it sometimes.
But we haven't mentioned Kelly Oubre yet. 12 of
Yeah.
18 from the field, 10 of 15 from three. That 10 3-pointers, that's a franchise record off the bench. 39 points. Kelly Oubre, after talk about a guy who's been struggling offensively, I think he's finally back.
Yeah, well, he was back in a big way this game against Indiana. We'll get to more of Kelly Oubre's performance and what he's done off the bench with this team. The other stat, real quickly, there's so many. I wanted to mention this one. What's crazy is that the Hornets score 158. They actually had two players who didn't score a single point that got some minutes, JT Thor and Ish Smith. How about everybody that played for Indiana? And it was a lot. They emptied the entire bench. Everybody scored at least 4. It's like Indiana score 126
Balanced.
and the Hornets beat them by 30. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, unbelievable. All right, let's continue to talk about it. More of the record-breaking performances that we saw from individuals and the team as a whole. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as they continue the march to the playoffs and beyond. Anytime the Hornets play the Indiana, make sure you take the over on BetOnline. It remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022, and it's a new year, and so they have a new updated desktop and a mobile website, so you can sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's look at more records. Let's look at Kelly Oubre coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are listening to the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Main character for American Psycho was Patrick Bateman, which really confused me. I always thought that Jason Bateman was Patrick Bateman and that Patrick Bateman
That's a bad mistake.
was Jason Bateman.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Have you guys gotten into the new Ozark yet? Have you guys
I haven't
finished
started
that and
it.
started
It's
it?
queued up. It's ready to
No
go.
Zark. I don't watch it.
You're not
We'll
a fan
talk,
at all?
Walker. We'll talk, Walker.
Okay, yeah. I was
All right,
about to
side
say,
chat.
like, it's a good season. I didn't like it as much as the first 3, which is always going to be tough, but it's still pretty awesome. So you need to get on it, Doug. I mean, is it one of those things where you just want to go against it because of your spite? Like, I don't want to do it. Everybody else loves it. I don't want to be the trendy guy.
I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of TV shows out there. So, like, if I don't watch one particular TV show, I don't think that's a
Don't
crime
act like
against
Ozark
humanity.
is some. Don't act like it's just one of a million. Okay, like it is certainly in a tier 1 above everything else, and we have to give that its recognition. Don't act like it's just some normal TV show that nobody really watches. And Walker, I'm sorry I didn't get to it. Don't do that to me.
All right, I'll work on it. Anyway,
Okay,
before we
please
get away from
seems
this
like
game, I really need to know if I need to put the big dub hat on. I've pulled the big dub hat down. Okay, so my question to you two gentlemen is: am I putting the big dub hat on for this 158-point victory?
I think if they break the franchise record
Yeah.
of points, regardless of who it's against.
Okay,
I don't know the history of the big dub hat. I don't know. I don't know what the criteria
I
is.
think by the name Big Dub Hat, you can, if you're a new listener, I think you can get it. It's a big W.
I've put
I
it
only
together.
wear it when the Hornets get a big dub.
Now let's talk about the
First
semantics of
win
this,
off
though.
a back to back.
I mean, yeah, like it's an impressive win. They needed one. It was
Okay.
impressive with the way they scored 158,
Uh-huh.
but they also destroyed the Pacers. And if they would have lost, it would have been really disappointing, right?
Right? They were only up by 1 at the half,
It-
71-70. Not great defense in this one.
Yeah.
Big
Go ahead,
dub.
put it on. It's a big dub. That's
Oh
fine.
wait, it's my decision. You can't tell me
don't
whether
ask
to put
me.
it.
Don't
Well,
ask
no,
for my
I'm
opinion.
I want your opinions, but all
you
right,
wanna
am I going to
step
do
on
it?
it?
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 158 points. You can't deny the big dub on 158 points. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you for putting the Big Dub hat on. I wish you would have done it in the first segment so we could just have you have it on for a lot longer time. But it's fine. We'll at least go with the last two segments, and we'll talk and lead off with the second segment, Kelly Oubre. 35 points a couple of times off the bench for him this season. Scores 39 and sets that franchise record as somebody that is coming in non-starter. What he's done with this team has been really impressive. It's the second time he's hit 10 threes this year, if I'm not mistaken. Did he hit 10 against Detroit, or was it just 9 that he hit against Detroit? I'm trying
9.
Yeah,
Nine.
so,
eight in the fourth quarter, 9 overall.
right. Okay, so hitting 10 for Kelly Oubre.
Terry Rozier has also hit 10 for the Hornets. There's one other. Devontae Graham, the other. I
There you
looked
go.
this up. Devontae Graham and Terry have hit 10, so it's the tied for the franchise record.
He's been so fun this year, man. Like I thought, I don't think anybody expected this from Kelly. But even me, I thought it was an average signing. It was like, okay, you lost some guys. He'll be a nice depth piece, and everybody was kind of talking about him filling in the absence for Gordon Hayward in case that he had some health issues, because he's been one to have those health issues. But this year, despite the last few games, not so much. He was leading the team in a bunch of different Iron Man type of categories, and yet you see last night Kelly steps in mightily so for one Gordon Hayward. What have you made of Kelly Oubre? I can't talk.
Hoobre.
Yeah,
Ubi, big
That's also
Ubi.
a good one. We kind of stumbled onto something there. What have you made, Nick, of Kelly Oubre's performance not only last night but just this entire year?
Yeah, I think as if you want to call it up and down, as he has been at times, he's been a plus signing because, and I know the comparison just based on who left and who came in is Malik Monk, but I think that Kelly Oubre's instant offense is much better for this team than what Monk or anybody on the bench was able to give them in the past. I mean, for a guy to be able to explode for 39 points, I mean, it was a big number, but like we've seen Kelly have these really, really good performances in the past for this team. I think he was only shooting like 18% from three the last handful of games before last night. So hopefully that breaks him out of that little mini slump. But I think overall he's been really good. I think he has more than accepted his role coming off the bench for this team. And I think that was a big part of all of this. Because I think, when he came in, it was like, okay, well, is he going to start? Because he might be able to for a lot of different teams, but he's taken that role and run with it. And I think he meshes really well with everybody else around him. And, if he can be somewhat consistent off the bench when this team is in big games fighting for seeding, hopefully in the playoffs, that's where everybody else is going to see like, oh, the Hornets got Kelly Oubre and he just came off the bench and hit 3 straight threes. I mean, that's what he gives you. And I think it's been a good signing overall.
Yeah, whenever you can sign a guy on a short contract, a mercenary deal, and that player comes in and has career shooting numbers, is in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year. Carboni, do you have a vote? Do you have an NBA vote?
I don't.
That's
don't
a
have
crime.
that, and I don't have a Baseball Hall of Fame vote.
That's a
thank God.
crime. We're gonna start a campaign. Get Carboni the vote. Because we need some help getting Kelly Oubre.
The only
into
thing I ever
Sixth Man of the Year
voted for
conversation.
was AP Top 25 basketball, and I was like up so late making sure I watched like St. Mary's and stuff. It was kind of bad for my health.
But that's the thing, though. Like, it's why I don't vote on the ACC media days, because I don't know who the best offensive lineman is. Like, I don't know. I mean,
Just throw somebody in there.
Who's
Don't
going to
worry
be
about
first
it.
team?
You're right.
second
I
team?
don't do that either. Thanks for being a principled man like myself, Walker.
Yeah, well, exactly. Both of us, we have.
Well,
goals here.
that's fine. Well, let's get Carboni the vote, and then Nick, you can give me. I'll take it from you. I'll do the
You can be
voting
my
for you.
proxy.
Right, exactly. I don't have principles, so I will
Devin
just
Booker
vote.
is never making the All-Star game
Hornets.
if Doug gets a vote or has any influence over whoever gets it.
I'm going to vote Miles Bridges for best celebration for this game. He hit a 3-pointer in Lance Stevenson's eye, former Charlotte Hornet Lance Stevenson, and he did his little guitar celebration in front of Lance Stevenson. That's great.
I missed that. I'm gonna go back and find.
Oh, it's amazing. He did
I'll
it
gift
twice.
that today.
Look, if you're Lance Stevenson, if you're any player, if you're Russell Westbrook and you are in the process of being put out to pasture as an NBA player, that is the sign. That's when somebody does your, whether it's the Russell Westbrook small or this celebration.
Well, Miles did that to Vince Carter.
That's right. That's what
Man, Miles is just
I think
putting
you're right.
players. Wow, Miles, he's retiring NBA players. He is putting players out to pasture. Nick, we need to get Nick. Also, I'm giving Nick all kinds of things.
Okay,
I'm giving him an NBA
Yeah,
vote.
give him a to-do list.
Oh yeah.
But this is what I think. I think that local TV sports anchors should all have celebrations. And whenever you break a big story or you do like a great feature piece, you do the celebration. I don't know what yours is going to be yet. We got to figure that out.
About it, yeah.
But I want to get you a celebration.
Like, doesn't involve rhythm. Hopefully.
That's fine.
Yeah. That cannot be a requirement for me to do that.
Yeah. What would yours be, Doug? Would it be your post up in a bee costume when you wore
That's
that
right.
the other day?
Yeah. It's going to be exactly. I just want this. Yes, it's this right here. It's these like the Al Jefferson. I want to do the big Al when he used to like fake with the ball in his hands.
Oh, I love that. I so incorporated that in my game. I was in college when that was happening. I was like, yeah, let me bring this to the streets. Let me put this out there, palm it like this, and then back
let
it
us
down.
know. Let us know on Twitter. What should Carbone's celebration be on CNC?
And then when we get to 1,001 subscribers, he'll do that.
Yeah, 2,000. Yeah, we'll make that the 2,000. He has to do it on TV.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's exactly what we'll do. So send us in your ideas. Nick Carboni, WCNC, Walker Mail Lock.
Nick's like, that is not happening.
Doug Branson, LOH. All right, let's move on. We'll talk some more franchise records, what it means, and also just Gordon Hayward being out, what that means for this Hornets team where they weren't winning without him for quite a while. And then, boom, big-time explosion last night, despite not having Gordon in the lineup. For listeners who served in or worked for the United States Marine Corps, have family or friends who might have, I wanted to notify you of an available resource from 1953 to 1987. Personnel assigned to Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune were potentially exposed to contaminated drinking water. The Marine Corps has since partnered with health agencies to conduct scientific studies to assess impacts from these potential exposures, and they are working to keep those Marines, their families, and civilian employees informed with updates and resources available to them. If you or someone you know may have been at Camp Lejeune during those years, please consider registering with the Camp Lejeune Historic Drinking Water Notification Database. You can learn more and register at www.marines.mil/clwater. That's www.marines.mil/clwater. One more segment to go on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So if you don't believe in the moon landing, then what would you say is the greatest human achievement?
I think the greatest achievement of all time, and I think it's Vince Carter doing 360s clockwise rather
really
than
tough.
counterclockwise.
I've tried it. It's really tough.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, no Gordon Hayward for this one, and we have seen this year lots of people want to trade him. They want to trade him for Miles Turner. They want to trade him for really anybody that comes up. There's a lot of people that are anti-Gordon Hayward. He's making $30 million a year. You've even put out the question, Doug, if Miles Bridges hits late shots, if Kelly Oubre can somehow help when Miles Bridges might be off. Is there a huge use for one Gordon Hayward, and does that make him expendable? Could you trade him at that point? Well, here we have a question after last night's performance, 158 without him on the floor. You have this from Levi_Robertson on Twitter. Does seeing what the Hornets did last night without Hayward, albeit against a bad Pacers team, missing key players, solidify the fact that the Hornets should trade him for the much-needed help down low? I think what we've seen, and this is perhaps a problem with all sorts of sports fans, right? One game samples and then trying to apply that to a huge picture happens so frequently. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. When we see somebody performing well, hey, you know, if somebody keeps doing this, see ya to this other guy that hadn't been playing well. And it's all agenda-based, right? Like media, fake media, whatever. I don't want to be like that. But look, after last night's performance, it was nuts. But the two previous games, which one do you want to put more stock into? Is it the one game against Atlanta where they were cold and Gordon didn't play? Is it the same thing against Toronto where they were cold and he didn't play? Or do you want to put it in this 158 performance and he didn't play and say that's the reason they should trade him? Like, Gordon is an important player for this team. If you think you can get some big-time value in return for him, then I wouldn't be opposed to pulling the trigger because he does make a lot of money. He's overpaid, and he'll certainly be overpaid the next 2 years, the last 2 years of his contract. But at the same time, the answer is no. Last night does not have me sold that now we can send Gordon Hayward out.
All right. Well,
and
that's
we'll be
that.
all good.
That's that.
Yeah, just leave him in Indiana. I'm sure some
It's just
fans
settled.
probably, or wherever he is. Yeah.
I mean, does that settle it for you? Does that one game against Indiana settle it for you, Doug?
No, I mean, I think Gordon Hayward is in the trade rumor mill. It's official. I've seen him on Bleacher Report. I've seen him in all kinds of trade rumors. So I don't think there's a doubt that, he is one of the possible pieces that the Charlotte Hornets could look to move because of the contract size, because of the redundancy at his position for the Charlotte Hornets right now and what he gives. But I think it's also a difficult decision because there are things that Gordon Hayward does that you could see as very valuable in the playoffs that might not be as valuable when you're playing a cruddy Pacers team. But Nick, I don't think it's out of the question that the Hornets playing this well does signal, without Gordon, does signal something about their viability without him.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, this is a team that's a young team that will learn to do it without them if they have to, but they've struggled to get to that point. I think entering last night, or maybe it's still the overall record, they're 9-22 when he's not on the floor. So that's the sample size I still look at, and it was clearly something that bothered them against Toronto and against Atlanta. I mean, this is a sixth youngest team in the NBA. I think they struggle sometimes when their shots aren't falling to have that focus on both ends of the floor. Mm-hmm. I think he does bring that to them, and he just kind of does everything well. And I mean, like literally physically connects them on the floor. You notice that missing piece when he's not out there and they're struggling. You don't notice it when they're just ripping threes and they're scorching the net. I mean, that's that, yeah. And they're not going to do that every night, obviously. So if this team, I don't think it's going to happen this year, where not in terms of a trade, but it could. I don't think it will, but I don't think it's going to happen this year where this team is just all of a sudden going to be like, oh, Gordon's not here, but like we know exactly what to do for 48 minutes of basketball in tough games. So I think he's still very much needed for that. I don't think they're, in terms of their timeline and their growth ready for that yet, but it could be next year. I mean, for sure. I mean, he definitely is somebody with his talent, and he's not an all-star anymore, but he's still talented. You could definitely get some value for him.
Yeah, and so I guess that's the question. Let's say Gordon Hayward continues to play about status quo for what he's done this year. Throughout the rest of the season, he's not traded. The Hornets don't do any kind of in-season trade. Let's say they lose in the first round, but they're kind of competitive, right? Let's just go with that kind of hypothetical scenario. Gordon Hayward, 2 years left on his deal, but doesn't end on what was an awful season. We don't expect Miles Bridges to have hit his ceiling, right? Like, we still think there's probably some consistency improvement there for Miles Bridges. Kelly Oubre, can you do something like this again next season? Doesn't have to be 10 threes, 9 threes, breaking records, but can you do something 45% from the field, 37, 38% from three? Can you do that? At that point, I think that's what makes Gordon Hayward more expendable. But this year, to try to get to a spot where you are competitive in that first round series, and then you let him go, then you get out from under that contract. Miles takes a step up. We certainly don't think LaMelo's hit his ceiling, right? I mean, if he's going to be a superstar, then he's going to continue on this incline. Kelly, all these young players that are continuing to develop. We certainly don't think Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels, right? Like, it's still a pretty young team. I think that's the time you probably look to move Gordon, unless there's just some great value in return this season. I've talked about it. Myles Turner before the injury, I certainly would have explored that and probably would have talked myself into going ahead and doing it. It's going to be a big loss when they lose him. It's going to hurt whenever they trade him.
Yeah, but I think Gordon Hayward's value is predicated a lot on the fact that they don't have a ton of star power on this team. I mean, he connects a lot of pieces because you need to connect those pieces because you don't have other stars that can connect those pieces. I would say if they end up trading Gordon Hayward to get a defensive center that makes them just a little bit better and possibly competitive in the playoffs, then I think that's a wash. I don't know why you would do that. But I'm starting to think about like opening our eyes a little bit to the possibilities that the Hornets could make a move at the trade deadline or maybe in the offseason to bring a legitimate star to Charlotte.
Okay.
I'm tired. Here's the thing. It's very difficult as a fan of the Charlotte Hornets to really imagine those scenarios because those scenarios just haven't happened in the past. It's very difficult to see things in the future when those things haven't happened in the past. We don't have the precedent. But I think Mitch Kupchak does have the pieces and the ability to make a deal for a bigger star like a Lillard or a Cat. And we just we're not even thinking that way. We're thinking so small. I think we should start thinking big. And if they make a big deal and Gordon Hayward is part of that, then I think that's a move in the right direction, because Gordon Hayward doesn't by himself make you competitive in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that it is about what you're able to bring in, whether it's via the trade or via the cap space created by it. Because like I said, I think the value you've gotten for 2 years overall has been good, but that's kind of when, if your team is ready, if your core is ready, your young core is ready, then you kind of shake loose of it and see, what you can use it as a building block towards.
Yeah, and when you want to trade Gordon Hayward, if you want to think, you're going to have to get rid of a decent amount of stuff too. Does that amount to current players trading for those guys? Or are we just trying to look in free agency? Can you possibly now, with LaMelo, with an exciting team, is now the time where maybe
tick, 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 tick. Listen, we got to get something in here that's going to be not competitive in the first round.
I didn't know what
we got to start thinking bigger and demanding more of a franchise that now has a future superstar or maybe current superstar in LaMelo Ball. I'm talking big time players. That's what I want. Forget Rashawn Holmes, forget Miles Turner, forget Sabonis. I'm talking big players. That's what I want.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. With the Big Dub hat on, we appreciate it.
I'm a serious man making serious takes here.
No, were you doing this during your take? I don't.
Well, you see, the problem is if you're watching on YouTube, we have these little bars below us, and the bars sit pretty high. And so to make any kind of hand motions, you have to do this sort of unusual thing where you lift your elbows really high to make these
you have to
expressive
do
takes.
Thing where,
all right? Listen. I'll tell you something about TV. We're doing TV right now. Nick knows. Nick knows what I'm talking about.
This is exactly how it's done.
I think that should be a Nick celebration. Just the
right.
The
T-Rex jazz hands.
Yeah.
I think,
but they're like, they're exactly T-Rex jazz hands.
All right, thanks for making. That's. I want to talk about that. We were talking about the mascot names. Like we were talking with Sean Woodley the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to think the T-Rex is one that somebody I think threw at me, and I thought that was kind of hilarious. Like that's one.
Okay, I've got the celebration. I've got the celebration.
Okay,
all right, all right, Carboni. All right. I'm going to do a little play on your name here. Just do one of these.
Okay.
Just do one of these.
Just
driving the
ride
car.
the whip. Okay.
Exactly. When you hit the big take, when you got the big feature, and you want what are some of your like channel 9, channel 3? You want to like shove it in their face? Just give them one of these.
But do I have to do it like? Do I have to like go behind their live shot so it's on their air? Because otherwise, I'm just doing it in my own.
That's a good idea. Well, that's a good idea too, though. It's
just bust into one of their live shots. Exactly.
Sure, I'll do that Friday night at the Lakers game. That'll be great.
Perfect. You heard it here first. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every single day. Fun Friday coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about what gives us the Hive life. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Free and available also on all platforms. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks to Nick for hopping on. Have a great rest of your day.